Weapon H is trying to track down the leader, but Wolverine gets in his way. What's up, everybody? I'm Stan, and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail. This is going to be an irate review, and we're going to be talking about Hulkverines number 2, written by Greg Pak. So this story is dealing with the Immortal Hulk, Weapon H, as well as Wolverine, classic Logan, and their take on each other and how they're going to combat against the leader and possibly somebody else. But let's dive into this story and see where we can pick up. What can we really say about Hulkverines? Issue number 1 brought us the combat between Weapon H and the Immortal Hulk, something that we'd been waiting ages for. And while they did battle and the infection that was caused by the leader spread between the both of them, we actually saw Weapon H trying to hunt down the leader, but was confronted by Wolverine. So when we open up this issue, number 2, we expect that we're going to get the conclusion of that. Well, that's just not the case yet, because we see Weapon H's wife and kids driving along, and then all of a sudden they drive directly into a river as if it's intentional, and this SUV pulling a James Bond becomes submersible and goes into some sort of secret underwater bunker that's occupied by the grandparents of the children, which is such a super weird thing. I know that there's a lot of stuff that's been going on. There's some inclusions from Weapon H number 6, and it's a series that I wasn't necessarily following along with, but the idea that they're both super spies, the kids kind of know about this, the grandparents are in on it, there's a lot of stuff that's been going on, especially since she broke out of Roxxon. But that doesn't mean that the conflict between Weapon H and Wolverine has died down. In fact, it's actually gotten more vicious than ever as we see Weapon H jumping through the sky and then clashing against the blades of Wolverine. But these two individuals with their animalistic instincts, they know that each one possesses certain powers that are going to allow them to go, well, let's just call it all out, as Weapon H buries his claws inside the chest of Wolverine and Wolverine just slashes out across the face. These claws just clashing and clanging all over each other, but Weapon H is still bleeding. He's not healing nearly as quick. He doesn't have time for this because his family's in danger, and the person that he's pursuing, the leader, has finally made his way to the shadow-based compatriots that led him here for this various plot. But he was the bait. I mean, you've got to break a few eggs to make an omelet. And that means Weapon H is going to go through them like tissue paper, but the Hulk wants to take his turn first as he smashes him into the ground. And while the big green Goliath is doing his damage, Logan pulls him up onto his motorcycle and they make their escape. The leader, frustrated to find that his prey is on the move, summons his humanoids, and then all of a sudden they're summoned against other humanoids, and these silverish versions dominate them, and they're actually the possessions of Dr. Alba, the person responsible for the actual creation of Weapon H. This brings us to a bit more brains versus brains showdown. Leader firing off a laser, Abella blocking it with her shield, only to teleport behind her and try to do the same thing again. The explosion between the both of them causing a cascading of energy, and them both to be a little bit worse for wear. But the most important thing is that it inspires respect. Not only did she take the design of the Sternbots, she improved them exponentially, and that was beautiful. And there's this odd kind of romantic quality that goes in here. I'm not sure what Greg Pak is really getting at, but to see Abella and the leader kind of flirtatiously talking about how to dispose of Wolverine and what they can really do and what the manipulations are really doing. In Weapon H number 12, there were some things that were dealing with wanting Weapon H dead. So Abella and the leader are currently evidently not just pulling the strings on this, the strings are being pulled on them as well, which is more than enough to lead to a team-up. After the Hulk has basically destroyed these shadow-based folks, destroying the legs of Agent NG, he picks up the receiver that can actually intercept all these various communications and electronic signals that are from different individuals. Logan and Clayton Cortez find themselves at a gas station when ultimately a rumble is heard from the woods, the Hulk running past the both of them in hot pursuit of the signal that he's tracking from the shadow-based receiver. Logan convinces Clayton that obviously they've got to find him because they need to know exactly what the Hulk knows. But this is not necessarily the Hulk that they're used to. He lashes out at Clayton, smashing him out into the woods, and leaps out into the horizon. But ultimately he falls, he fails. The sun has risen, and this Immortal Hulk does not come out during the daylight. He only comes out at night. Bruce Banner now appears, falling deep into the water. Logan and Clayton having to save him, but Clayton sees this base under the water. He sees his wife staring back at him, and finally they're inside the airlock. There's a lot of answering that needs to be done on everybody's side, and why the hell is Bruce Banner, Clayton Cortez, and Logan standing inside this underwater bunker that they're not even supposed to know about? Why are they around his family, these victims of circumstance, bringing these innocents that aren't necessarily innocent? And obviously the kids, loving their dad, say that he'll kick both Logan's and Wolverine's ass, which, you know, technically that probably could be the case. But that's not the end. We've got Shadowbase, which is still trying to conduct these various experiments. These new and improved humanoids that are built by Dr. Alba make their way into the laboratory, and they start working on a plan to create the latest and greatest, most improved versions of the Weapon H program yet. Instead of basing it on an individual that can control his emotions, they're going to go after the irrational and the emotional emotionally excessive versions. We're talking about a Weapon H powered by the Immortal Hulk and one powered by Wolverine. This could come to a conflict that we haven't quite seen yet, and that's going to be the end of Hulkverines number 2. So Greg Pak is obviously leaning heavily into the tropes of superhero comic books, where we're enemies, we must fight, and then we become friends, because that's exactly what he did with Weapon H and the Immortal Hulk, and then what he did with Weapon H and Wolverine. And now that they're all kind of together, they have a unified enemy, and their enemies have united as well. We're going to get a lot of conflict, and we're going to get a conclusion inside Hulkverines number 3, where everything's really going towards it. Do I think that this book has any kind of substance? Not necessarily. There's a few callbacks to different parts of the Weapon H series, and overall it's a fun romp through these kind of standard scenarios for various heroes. It's not doing anything to really develop the Clayton Cortez character for me, the leader is pretty true to his character, and the inclusion of Hulk and Wolverine makes for a relatively interesting conflict, especially when you've got this trio that could possibly be modified to create more monsters. The art appears to be a little bit better than last issue, but I'm taking this for what it is. It's meant to be a fun, spectacle kind of miniseries that is dealing with something that all fans at the deep core of themselves really want to see. They want to see the Hulk fighting Wolverine and fighting Weapon H, and that's really about it. They don't need a lot of story narrative to tie everything together. It doesn't need to feel super impactful. It just needs to deal impact with every blow that's blasted on the single pages. But I want to know what you guys think, so hit me up in the comments down below and we can start that conversation. As always, if you like what you see, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to get more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books and more.